Hey, it's Ukallii, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 11 of my Harry Potter rewrite fanfiction. This is not going to be a very long video because I feel like Chapter 11 is really self-explanatory. There's only 2 scenes. The first scene is the arrival in Shehu, and I'll show you some sort of concept art. I did not draw this, I didn't draw any of these artworks, but I found them online when I went looking for like fantasy Asian village, basically is what I searched for, and I found these amazing artworks that were done. I'll put a link in the description box below to where you can find these on the artist's website and artist's platforms and whatnot, but they're these amazing artworks, and I kind of composited them together to form Shehu and form the village. So that's how that all came together. It's kind of what I have in mind whenever I'm writing these scenes. The first thing that happens whenever they actually walk into Shehu proper is the luggage sprouts feet. And this idea actually comes from the animated version of Beauty and the Beast, where the carriage that he sends the dad away in sprouts feet and kind of scuttles away. That's where I got the idea from. As they're walking into the village, Harry has this, not really flashback, but he has this weird moment where he sees the village as dark and dirty. The reason for this is because the last time that Harry was in a new place that was a new home, that he was brought to a new home, was when he was brought to the Dursleys. And the Dursleys didn't originally live at number 4 Privet Drive. As you see in the first chapter of this fanfiction, in the prologue sequence, they lived in Sailor Town. They lived in poverty. So that's what he's thinking about whenever he's walking. Then you meet Aunt Mei Ling. Mei Ling is a plot device, really. Is what she is. That's why I created her. I needed an intermediary between Harry and his great-grandfather. I knew I wanted to have the great-grandfather there, but I needed another family member. I needed another intermediary. For the purpose of this, you get Mei Ling Lee, who is attracted to Remus. she has kind of a romantic interest in Remus, and her main role is to be kind of a touch point for Harry to the Wen family, to the Lee family, and also for Rose to have kind of a maternal figure, because, you know, she's lost her mother and she's lost the rest of her family. Not that she's all that broken up about it, but she has lost them, and she really needs that kind of figure in her life beyond Remus, who has to leave once a month. Aunt Mei Ling really serves the purpose of being there for Rose when Remus can't be because of his stuff, which if you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about. So Mei Ling shows them to the inn. The reason why she's showing them to the inn and not just taking them straight to the Lee estate is because the Lee estate has not been fixed up. It hasn't been cleaned in a little while, so they need to actually go in and do that process. So they're going to stay at the inn for a few days before they get the Lee estate fixed up. So they go there, and then they go to dinner. Up to the Great Hall. Now, the whole Great Hall image is from this artwork that I saw. Rose doesn't like to eat up there because she's afraid of heights, so once they get the Lee estate fixed up, she only eats in the Great Hall at the Lee estate. But the festivals and stuff usually happen in this room, so we've got this room to go to. They go up there, and they meet the kind of mayor of Shehu, basically, Zhang Ruiming. And Harry accidentally offends her by being a little too humble. And this is an important scene for his development as a character in this new role as, the heir of an estate, because he's starting to realize that there are rules that he doesn't know about how to act. Not just to other purebloods, not just to other people, community, but specifically how to act with people from different cultures. And this is a moment to really point out the culture shock that he's going through, of not really knowing how to act, not really knowing what to do. And that's something that starts to correct itself over the course of the first book, really. Harry starts to get that kind of immersion experience where he learns the social graces just by living with people from that culture. Harry notices that there is some energy between Aunt Mei Ling and Remus, and he kind of teases them a little bit about it, and Remus responds with no talking about relationships until you've at least had one, and this becomes a kind of way that Remus starts to see Harry on more equal terms and stops seeing him quite so much as like a little baby Harry, and starts to see him as the teenager that he is. And this continues on throughout not only this book, but it will continue on to the next book, of Remus starting to realize that Harry's not this little kid. You know, he has his moments, his naive, innocent moments, but he's not a little kid. He's a teenager. And he starts to kind of have this horrifying realization that Harry is a lot like his dad, who was kind of a little bit of a nightmare as a teen. So this is the beginning of that, where you start seeing James, James's personality starting to come out in Harry. Once James came out of his shell, he was very, you know, he was very cunning, in a way, and he kind of messed with people a little too much. And that's what we see here. Harry starts to realize that he's messing with people, and Remus finds it funny, but also infuriating. Harry meets two girls. He's already met our Cho Chang character, Zhang. He's already met her, so he meets her again. But he also meets Elizabeth Selwyn. Now, Elizabeth Selwyn's an invented character. She's not original to the books. I created her actually as a love interest for a later point. I don't know if I'm going to use that, because she was created for a different version of this fanfiction that I wrote a while ago. I don't know if I'm going to use it. But she was created for that, and she was a fully fleshed out character, so I just went ahead and used her again here, and she serves the purpose of kind of showing Harry a little uncomfortableness. She became very useful, though. I'm sure you guys have wondered why I decided to have two love interests so early in the series. It's to overwhelm Harry on purpose, so that he doesn't pick one of them, so that he doesn't actually have a relationship with either of them at this point. I had already introduced this Cho Chang character who fits so perfectly into the world. Her inclusion just made so much sense. And I like the idea of introducing important characters early on in the series, so that's why she was introduced earlier. But I didn't want Harry to fall in love with her. I didn't want him to have a relationship. I didn't want her to be his first relationship at this junction. I wanted that relationship to be preserved in the 5th book later on in the series, 4th and 5th book. So I needed to have someone else to draw Harry's attention away from her, and that other person became Elizabeth Selwyn. And once Harry sees them basically competing over him, he realizes that they only care about him for his name, and they don't really care about him as a person, and that's a complete turnoff for him, and he kind of loses his interest in both of them as a result of that. So even though he's kind of flabbergasted by Elizabeth at first, and he's kind of flustered, and he's obviously interested in her at first, that interest fades and wanes and goes away whenever he realizes she only wants him for his name. The Zhao family arrives, the Changs, and they come, and you see Zhang flirting with Harry, and Harry tries to respond in Chinese and kind of screws it up. She calls him Guga, which is big brother, and he says Mei Mei, which is little sister. I know that those translations don't sound romantic, but in usage, they're used for like martial arts sect brother and sister, that kind of relationship, and it's actually not uncommon, from what I understand, in Chinese culture for like two people who are dating to call each other Guga and Mei Mei. So that's why this is here. It's stuff that I've learned from my dissertation. That's why this is here. So that happens, and Remus decides he's got to step in because Harry's starting to make a lot of mistakes, and it's all connected to his language use. And so he pulls Harry aside and kind of explains what he just did on accident, and realizes that Harry's kind of out of his depth. But they go back in and realize that they're both kind of out of their depth because the girls have connived this situation to get them both alone with them. So Remus is stuck between two women that are after him, and Harry's stuck between two girls that are after him, and they're both trying to figure out how to get the hell out of the situation. The girls kind of interrogate Harry a little bit, and he admits that he and Draco are just friends. There's nothing going on between them, and they both take that as invitation to flirt with him and to try to win him over. He realizes that's what they're doing. He realizes that they are after him, and he doesn't know how to respond. He doesn't know what to do. He says girls are scary, and he comes up with a plan to get them to fight each other instead of fighting him, so that they'll leave him alone. And he kind of fuels their jealousy by complimenting them both so that they'll fight with each other, which works out beautifully. They Elizabeth with her fiery Scottish spirit attacks, and Remus grabs Harry and is like, okay, time to go, and Harry's like, what happened? He's playing innocent, and Remus is like, I know that you did this, you incited this, and Harry's just like, I would never. And you really see his snarky, sassy attitude coming out here, which is an important part of Harry's overall personality that I really wanted to preserve for this fan fiction and for this role. And that's it. That's actually all for chapter 11. It's another short video. I'm sorry if that upsets. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next time with chapter 12, which has gone through a lot of edits. This chapter barely had any edits at all. I changed the Chinese just a little bit, corrected the names, and that's it. Other than that, this chapter was left mostly alone, but the next chapter's gone through a huge change, so we'll talk about that next time. And I will see you then. Bye!